Let's go to tonight's Four Corners now. It investigates the battle over youth gender care and the increasingly intense debate over whether puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones should be given to young people.
The body that I'm in, I don't want to be in this anymore.
She was born with a boy's body and she has a girl's heart and mind.
Transgender kids are at the centre of a polarising debate over medical intervention to help deal with their distress.
RN Breakfast presenter and Four Corners reporter Patricia Cavallis joins us now. Good morning, PK. Thanks for coming in to have a bit of a yarn. What's going on here, especially in Australia, with this debate at the moment?
Well, that's an important part, right? There is a huge global debate going on at the moment. 20 at least US states have banned what is known as gender-affirming care. Look, it's a big thing, gender-affirming care. It isn't just medical intervention, but it can lead to medical intervention, including puberty blockers, which stop puberty, pause puberty, and then cross-sex hormones, which allow you to develop in the gender that you identify with. In the US, it's a huge political issue. Even in the UK, the Tavistock Clinic has become really controversial and there's been huge changes there and a rolling back of puberty blockers to children who are only part of a clinical trial. And so you ask me what's going on in Australia. Well, you won't be surprised, we are not immune from that debate. What we can reveal tonight on Four Corners is that battle is also going on in Australia internally. And so we set about trying to centre children who are going through this in this discussion, because I feel like we have these discussions and debates without understanding the lived experience of families, and families are having a really hard time.
100%. I'm glad you've made that focus. You're also focusing in particular on a hospital that's become a bit of a flashpoint, Westmead Hospital in Sydney. What's going on there?
Well, what I can tell you is that it is almost ground to a halt. Just this year, they've only seen 3 new patients at the Children's Hospital. 3. The waiting list is big, but to be fair, waiting lists are big at all of the gender clinics of the children's hospitals across the country. We don't only talk about Westmead, but Westmead we found was really ground zero in terms of the fight over gender care. Now, the reason for that, you'd think, what's going on there? This is the gender clinic that's meant to deal with all of the Sydney kids that may be gender diverse or trans, or at least feelings of distress around gender. This clinic is at the centre of this fight because there's been very controversial research published. It's created a crisis of confidence for people working at the clinic and for parents going there, and there have been staff resignations, and really people are just not being seen. We also have a very heartbreaking story of a child who tried to get into the centre and, well, you'll have to watch the show. It's a really heartbreaking story. But this is real for families who are trying to get care and can't in Sydney unless they either go private or go to a regional centre in Newcastle.
You talked about the political debate in the US and in Europe, but have you been able to make any headway about the actual science that is going on? Because there are some of those leading scientists in Europe who have started walking back how they've felt about it. So have you been able to shed light on what is actually going on?
Yeah, great question. So what we can say is that the research around gender-affirming care is really fresh. In fact, most of it has only been published in the last decade or so. So this is a really new area and therefore changing and evolving. Puberty blockers, for instance, do carry risks.
Yep.
To bone density, for instance, that is well established. And in fact, in all the consent forms that the gender clinics have with parents and families as they make those decisions, that is warned. You know, this is a risk to bone density. It is highly monitored. But of course, there are consequences. Stage 2 hormones are permanent. They are irreversible. What families say, though, and it's really incredibly important to hear what they have to say, is that they know and they're making difficult decisions. They are decisions based on not, this is a flippant decision, but in fact, if we don't do this, our child is at risk. That's what they tell us. And that's how they feel, and that's how some of the kids have expressed it.
Look forward to the report tonight. Patricia, thank you.
Thanks.
And you can catch 4 Corners usual time, 8:30 on ABC TV. And, of course, anytime, anywhere on ABC iView. Check it out tonight.